Daniel was a human mechanic who worked in the alien marketplace on the edge of the star colony. The market was loud, full of strange voices, glowing signs and stalls that sold things no human back on Earth could ever imagine. Some stalls sold fruits that floated in the air. Others sold fabrics that shifted color like water, and some sold machines no one could understand except trained hands. Daniel's hands were those trained hands, and that was why aliens always called him when something broke. That day he was repairing an old alien growth machine, a strange device used for adjusting body health and size. It was not supposed to be dangerous, but it was full of glowing coils and humming wires that Daniel did not fully trust. He crouched down, tools in hand, when he noticed a small figure watching him from the corner of the stall. It was a girl, but not human. She was an alien, slender, delicate, with skin faintly glowing under the market lights. Her big eyes followed his every move, and her small hands held a basket of fruit. She looked young, maybe close to Daniel's age, but her shy face made her seem even smaller. She did not speak at first, only peeked at him with nervous curiosity. Daniel smiled a little, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Machine's old, but I'll get it working," he said. The alien girl tilted her head, her cheeks turning a faint shade of pink. She whispered softly, almost as if afraid to be heard. "Are you human?" Daniel chuckled. "That's right, I'm human. Name's Daniel." Before he could say more, the growth machine gave a strange spark. A hum grew louder, and Daniel frowned, tapping one of the side panels. He had only meant to test the power flow, but the machine roared to life, glowing brighter than it should have. The alien girl stepped too close, curiosity pulling her forward, and in that single second, the machine released a pulse of light. Daniel shouted, "Wait, don't touch," but it was too late. The glow wrapped around her body. Lifting her off the ground for a moment, she gasped, dropping her basket as the fruit scattered across the floor. The light faded just as quickly, and she landed back down, her small frame trembling. At first, Daniel thought nothing had happened, but then he noticed the change. Her body had shifted just slightly, but enough to be seen by everyone in the stall. Her chest had grown fuller, her figure different in a way that made her clutch herself with both arms, her face burning red. Daniel froze, his mouth open, realizing what the machine had done. The alien girl's eyes widened in shock, and then she let out a small squeak, blushing so hard her glowing cheeks turned almost bright. The people nearby noticed, and whispers spread quickly. "Look at her. The human touched the machine and changed her. She's been enlarged." Laughter rippled through the crowd, cruel and sharp. Daniel felt a heavy knot in his chest. He wanted to defend her, but he had no idea how. He stepped in front of her, raising his hands to the crowd. It was an accident. She didn't mean to. This wasn't her fault. But the alien girl shook her head, covering her face, tears forming in her eyes as she whispered, "Why did you do this to me, human?" Her voice broke Daniel's heart because he could tell she believed she would be blamed. The aliens around them were already sneering, pointing, calling her spoiled, and saying the human had marked her. Daniel leaned closer, speaking low so only she could hear. "I didn't want this to happen. I'll fix it, I promise. But don't let them shame you. You did nothing wrong." She lowered her hands, still blushing deeply, and looked up at him, her eyes wide and wet. For the first time, she did not see a laughing crowd. She saw only the human who stood between her and their cruel words. Daniel reached out slowly, not touching her, but showing with his posture that he was on her side. The crowd murmured louder, some shouting for guards, others whispering about alien customs, and how a girl changed by a human's action might now belong to him. The alien girl trembled, her lips quivering, but a strange spark lit inside her. She whispered again, but this time with a different tone. "What will happen to me now?" Daniel did not know the answer, but he felt the weight of her question, and he knew the market was no longer safe. He glanced around, seeing armored alien guards pushing through the crowd, their eyes fixed on him and the blushing girl. The guards were getting closer, and Daniel's heart pounded. He knew if they took him away, they might punish him for a crime he never meant to commit. He also knew if they took the girl, she would be shamed forever, treated as ruined. He took a deep breath. looking at her as she stood small and shaking behind him, her cheeks glowing brighter than ever. Then he whispered, "Stay close to me, trust me." The alien girl's lips parted, and for the first time she nodded, even though her whole face burned red. The guard shouted, "Human, step away from her." But Daniel planted his feet, ready to resist. The crowd fell silent, waiting, holding their breath. The girl's blush only deepened, and Daniel realized he had just stepped into something far bigger than a broken machine. And that was the moment the awkward discovery became the beginning of everything. The alien guards pushed through the crowd, their armor clinking, their glowing staffs humming with strange energy. The stall owners pulled back, not wanting to get in the way, and whispers spread like fire through the marketplace. Daniel stood firm in front of the alien girl, who was still clutching herself, with both arms, her face burning red, her eyes wide with fear. "Step away, human," one of the guards barked, his voice deep and cold. "You've interfered with our kind, and you've marked the girl with your accident. By custom, she no longer belongs to her family, and you must answer for this crime." Daniel's heart raced. He raised his hand slowly. "It was an accident. I was fixing the machine, it misfired, she didn't do anything wrong." But the guard sneered. "The customs are clear. What happens by human touch binds the girl. She is spoiled, unfit, and her family will demand punishment." The alien girl trembled, her blush glowing so strongly it lit her face in soft pink. She whispered, "Please, don't let them take me." Her voice was so quiet Daniel almost missed it, but when he looked down and saw the tears in her glowing eyes, he knew he couldn't back away. "Then you'll have to go through me," Daniel said, his voice steady. Even as his hands shook, the crowd gasped, some mocking him, others watching with interest. The guards frowned, clearly annoyed, and one raised his staff to strike. Suddenly another voice cut through the chaos, sharp and urgent. "Wait!" A young alien woman pushed her way through the people. She looked older than the blushing girl, but carried the same glowing skin, the same delicate frame. Her eyes were cold as they landed on Daniel, and then softer when they turned toward the girl. "Lyra," she said firmly, "step away from him. You're only making this worse." Daniel realized then that the blushing girl's name was Lyra. Lyra shook her head quickly, hiding behind Daniel's arm, her voice shaking. "No, sister, I can't. They'll throw me away." He stood up for me. Her sister's face tightened as if torn between anger and worry. She turned to Daniel. "Human, do you even understand what you've done?" Daniel shook his head. "I only fixed a broken machine, nothing more." "But," the sister's voice grew sharp, "you don't understand. In our culture, a girl changed by outside touch is seen as bonded, as claimed. She can't return to her family now. If she stays with you, she'll carry shame. If she leaves you, she'll be exiled." The words cut deep, and Daniel saw Lyra shrink, her face turning even redder, her body trembling. She whispered, "Sister, they'll never forgive me. Not now." The older sister sighed, frustration heavy in her eyes, but before she could speak again, the guards slammed their staffs on the ground. "Enough, human," one growled. "You and the girl are coming with us." Daniel glanced at Lyra, and in her eyes he saw only desperation, only fear. He made his decision in that moment, grabbing her hand, whispering, "Run." Lyra gasped, but she didn't resist. She followed, her blush glowing brighter as he pulled her through the market stalls, knocking over baskets and scattering glowing fruits. The crowd shouted, guards chasing behind them, alien voices calling them cursed, doomed, marked. Lyra stumbled once, but Daniel tightened his grip, keeping her close, his heart pounding like a drum. Finally, they ducked into a narrow alley, hiding behind stacks of broken crates, breathing hard. Daniel pressed a finger to his lips, motioning for silence. Lyra nodded, her chest rising and falling quickly, her cheeks still burning with endless blush. For a long moment, they listened to the guards shouting in the distance, their footsteps fading as they searched other streets. Daniel exhaled slowly. "We're safe. For now." Lyra clutched her hands to her chest, looking at him with wide, trembling eyes. "Why are you helping me?" she whispered, her voice soft. Daniel blinked, surprised by the question. Because you didn't do anything wrong, and no one deserves to be treated like that. Her face turned even redder, her glowing skin shining with embarrassment. She turned her head away, but he could see the faint smile forming at her lips. No one has ever stood for me before, she whispered. They always laugh, always point, always call me weak. Daniel felt a weight in his chest. He wanted to say more, but the sound of marching boots in the distance reminded him they weren't safe yet. We can't stay here, he said. They'll search every alley. We need to get somewhere hidden, somewhere safe. Lyra nodded quickly, her blush still refusing to fade. Where can we go? Daniel thought for a moment. My workshop, it's far, but if we cut through the alleys, we might make it. He started moving again, keeping her close, and she followed silently, though every time their hands brushed, her whole face turned a brighter shade of red. She whispered once so quietly he almost missed it. Why do I keep blushing whenever you look at me? Daniel glanced at her, caught off guard, and for the first time he didn't know what to say. The sound of soldiers shouting behind them gave no time for answers. They pushed forward, the city lights casting long shadows over the narrow streets. At the end of the alley, Daniel caught sight of a patrol, their armor glowing under the moonlight. Lyra gasped, pressing against him in panic, her blush so hot it almost glowed. Daniel whispered firmly, "Stay behind me, no matter what." The guards spotted them, raising their weapons. There, the human and the spoiled girl. Don't let them escape. Daniel's heart thundered, his body tense. He knew this was only the beginning, and as Lyra clung to him, her glowing blush painting her cheeks in fierce color, Daniel realized one thing. She was no longer just a stranger. She was now bound to him by accident, by fate, and by the choices he was making, and he could never turn back. The night air in the alien city was heavy, filled with glowing lanterns and the echo of footsteps that did not belong to them. Daniel pulled Lyra close as they slipped into another shadowed alley, his heart racing, her hand trembling in his. Behind them, the voices of guards carried through the narrow streets. Find them. The human has touched what does not belong. Bring the girl back, alive or ruined. Lyra's glowing cheeks were still red, her face hot with embarrassment and fear. Her breath came in quick gasps, and she whispered, "They'll never stop. They'll hunt us until we're caught." Daniel shook his head, keeping his voice firm. "Then we keep moving no matter what. I promised I won't let them take you." Her eyes widened, and for a moment she forgot the fear. Her blush deepened as she looked at him. "Why do you keep saying that? Why risk yourself for me?" Daniel hesitated, not knowing how to explain, but before he could answer, a loud, metallic clang rang out behind them. A group of armored guards had spotted their trail, their glowing staffs lighting up the alley walls. "Run," Daniel whispered, and Lyra obeyed. They sprinted together, the narrow passages twisting like a maze, the smell of alien spices and metal filling the air. Lyra stumbled once on a broken tile. Daniel caught her, holding her steady, his grip strong. Her face flamed again, and she whispered breathlessly, "You're holding me too close." Daniel didn't answer, his eyes fixed on the corner ahead. They ducked into a broken doorway, finding themselves in an abandoned storage hall. Dust floated in the dim light, and the silence inside was broken only by their pounding hearts. Daniel leaned against the wall, listening carefully. The guards' footsteps grew louder, voices echoing as they split into groups. "Check every hall, every room. The human can't hide forever." Lyra pressed herself against the wall, her arms wrapped around her chest, her blush still glowing. She whispered, "They'll call me ruined forever. If they catch me, my family will turn their faces away and I'll be nothing." Her words cracked like broken glass. Daniel clenched his fists, anger rising in him. "You're not nothing, Lyra. They're wrong. You're worth more than all of them." Her breath caught, and she stared at him with wide, tear-filled eyes. The redness on her cheeks deepened, but this time it wasn't just shame. It was something new, something she couldn't name. She looked away quickly, whispering, "You don't understand. Our laws, Daniel. You don't understand what it means. When a human changes me like this, they'll say I belong to you now." Daniel blinked, the weight of her words settling in. "Belong to me," he repeated, unsure. Lyra nodded weakly, her blush burning hotter. By custom I am marked, claimed, spoiled for anyone else. They'll treat me like a possession unless—" She hesitated, her voice breaking. "Unless I stay with you, because now they'll see me as yours." Daniel's chest tightened. He didn't want her treated like property. He didn't want her shamed. He leaned closer, his voice low but steady. "Then let them think what they want. You're not property, you're not spoiled, you're Lyra, and I'll stand with you." Her lips parted in shock, her glowing blush brighter than ever. She pressed a hand over her mouth to stop a sound from escaping. The air between them grew tense, heavy. But before either could speak again, the storage hall doors crashed open. The guards stormed inside, their armor shining under the dim lights, weapons raised. "Human," one growled. "Step away from her." Daniel grabbed Lyra's hand again, his eyes darting around the hall. He spotted a broken ventilation shaft near the ceiling. "Climb," he whispered, pointing. Lyra shook her head, panicked. "I can't. It's too high. I'll fall." Daniel cupped his hands, bending down. "Step on me. I'll lift you." She hesitated, her face burning red. "It's too close, I'll—" "No time, Lyra," Daniel cut in. "Trust me." Her eyes locked with his, and trembling, she stepped onto his hands, her blush glowing brighter as he lifted her. For a moment, her body pressed against his shoulder, and she gasped softly. But Daniel pushed hard, helping her climb. She pulled herself into the shaft, turning back, her eyes filled with worry. "Daniel, what about you?" The guards rushed forward. Daniel spun, grabbing a metal pipe from the floor, holding it like a weapon. "I'll be right behind you," he said, his voice steady. "But you go first." Lyra's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded, disappearing deeper into the shaft, her blush still glowing faintly in the dark. The guards charged, their staffs sparking with energy. Daniel swung the pipe, blocking a strike. The shock ran through his arms, but he held firm. Another guard lunged, he ducked, shoving the pipe into the alien's chest and sending him crashing into crates. But there were too many, and Daniel knew he couldn't hold them forever. One guard raised his weapon high, shouting, "You'll pay for touching what is forbidden." Daniel braced himself, but then, from above, a voice echoed down the shaft, soft but fierce. "Don't you dare hurt him." Lyra's voice, trembling, but filled with courage. The guards froze for a second, shocked that she would speak for him. Daniel used that moment, shoving the nearest guard back and sprinting toward the shaft. He grabbed the edge, hauling himself up, his muscles screaming, but he didn't stop. Lyra reached down, her small hands grabbing his arm, her blush glowing as she pulled with all her strength together. They scrambled deeper into the shaft as the guards shouted behind them, breathless side by side. They crawled through the narrow passage, their bodies close in the dark. Lyra's face was inches from his, her blush painting, her features even in the shadows. She whispered shakily, "Now, you really can't let go of me." Daniel met her eyes, his chest tight, and whispered back, "I won't, Lyra. Not ever." The sound of guards echoed behind them, still chasing. But now it wasn't just fear driving them forward. It was the strange bond between a human and an alien girl who couldn't stop blushing. And the hunt had only just begun. The crawl through the ventilation shaft seemed endless, metal scraping under Daniel's hands, Lyra's soft breaths echoing close in the narrow space. Every few seconds she glanced back at him, her cheeks glowing pink even in the dim shadows, her blush refusing to fade. Behind them, faint shouts of guards still echoed, but the voices grew weaker, drowned by distance until finally the shaft opened into the outskirts of the city. Daniel dropped down first, scanning the quiet street, then reached up to help Lyra. She slid down carefully, her foot slipping, and she landed against his chest, her face flaring red instantly. She stumbled back, covering her face with her hands. I didn't mean to." Daniel shook his head quickly. "It's fine, you're safe, that's all that matters." Lyra lowered her hands slowly, her eyes shining in the faint glow of the alien lamps, and whispered, "Safe. With you." Her blush deepened again and she looked away. Embarrassed by her own words, Daniel kept his voice steady. "We can't stay out here, they'll search every corner. Come on, we'll go to my workshop." He led her through twisting side streets, until they reached a small, old building on the edge of the market district. It looked worn, patched with metal plates and glowing wires. But inside it was warm, filled with scattered tools, humming machines, and the faint smell of oil and burnt circuits. Daniel closed the heavy door behind them, bolting it shut, then drew the curtains over the single dusty window. Lyra stood in the center of the room, her glowing skin catching the flicker of machine lights, her hands clasped tightly together, her face still red. "This is where you live?" she asked softly. Daniel gave a small smile. "It's not much, but it's mine, and now it's a place for you to rest." Her eyes widened, her lips parting in surprise. "For me, but I don't belong here." Daniel's voice turned firm. "You belong where you're safe, Lyra, and right now that's here." Lyra bit her lip, her face glowing brighter, and slowly she walked to a bench cluttered with tools, sitting carefully as if she were afraid to break something. Her blush deepened when Daniel sat across from her, leaning on the work table, his eyes steady. "You've been quiet," he said gently. "Tell me what's going through your mind." Lyra lowered her gaze, twisting her fingers nervously. I don't understand you, human. No one ever stood for me before. No one ever said I wasn't worthless, and yet you fight for me, even when it means being hunted." Her cheeks burned redder. Why do you care so much?" Daniel hesitated, unsure how to answer, but he leaned forward, speaking quietly. "Because you deserve better, Lyra. Because no one deserves to be treated as nothing. And because, when I saw them laugh at you, I couldn't just stand there." Lyra's breath caught, her eyes lifting to meet his, tears shining in them, her blush painting her face like fire. She whispered, trembling, "You say that, and my heart won't stop racing." For a long moment, silence filled the workshop, only the hum of machines in the background. Lyra's blush glowed brighter as she looked down, afraid to be seen, but Daniel's voice was calm, steady, almost protective. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "You have me, and I won't let them hurt you." Her hands trembled, and suddenly she reached across the table, her small fingers brushing against his. Her whole face turned crimson, but she didn't pull away. Daniel didn't move either, letting her hold on to him, a fragile bond forming in the quiet. Then, bang! A sharp noise hit the door, the bolt rattling. Lyra gasped, jumping to her feet, her blush glowing brighter with fear. "They found us," she whispered. Daniel stood quickly, grabbing a wrench from the table, his jaw tightening. Another knock came, heavy, urgent, but then a voice called from outside. Not the harsh tone of a guard, but something sharper, more personal. "Lyra, open this door, it's me." Lyra froze, her eyes wide, her whole body trembling. "No, it can't be," she whispered. Daniel looked at her, confused. "Who is it?" Lyra's voice cracked. "My cousin. She'll betray me." The pounding grew louder, the voice sharper. "I know you're inside, Lyra. Don't make this harder. The elders already know what happened. You're ruined, and the human must pay." Daniel's grip on the wrench tightened, his voice low. "She won't take you." Lyra's blush deepened, her body shaking, but she whispered, "She'll call the guards. We can't fight them all." Daniel moved closer, his voice calm, steady like steel. "Then we don't let her in, we stay hidden, and if they come, I'll protect you." Lyra looked at him, her lips trembling, and for a moment her fear softened, her glowing blush turning from shame into something warmer. Her cousin shouted again, "You think the human will save you, Lyra. He can't. He'll die for you, and then you'll be cast out anyway." Daniel stepped closer to Lyra, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Don't listen to her. She's wrong. You're stronger than you think, and you're not alone anymore." Lyra's eyes filled with tears, and though her face burned red, she whispered back, Why do your words make me believe you?" Outside, footsteps gathered, more than one voice now, the sound of guards approaching. Lyra's cousin's voice rose sharply. "Open this door, or they'll break it down." Daniel placed himself between her and the door, standing tall, his body tense, his voice steady. "They'll have to go through me first." Lyra's heart raced, her blush glowing brighter than ever. For the first time in her life, someone was ready to fight the world for her, and though fear shook her body, deep inside she felt something new, A fragile trust, a spark of hope. The door rattled harder, voices shouting, the danger rising. But Lyra's eyes stayed on Daniel, her cheeks red as fire, her lips trembling as she whispered, "With you, I'm not afraid anymore." And with those words, the storm outside grew louder, ready to break into their fragile shelter. The pounding on the workshop door grew louder, rattling the metal frame. Lyra stood frozen in the middle of the room, her glowing cheeks red with fear, her cousin's voice sharp through the door. "Open it, Lyra. You know you can't hide forever." Daniel gripped the heavy wrench tighter, his body tense, his voice low. "Don't answer her. She's not here to help you." Lyra shook her head quickly, whispering, "She'll call the guards. She'll bring them all here. She always hated me. She'll use this to destroy me." The knocking stopped for a moment. Silence heavy. Then a cruel laugh echoed from outside. "You think the human can protect you, Lyra? You've brought shame to us all, and I'll see that shame erased." Daniel stepped closer to Lyra, his tone steady. "Let her talk, but don't let her break you." Suddenly the door smashed open, the bolt snapping as armored guards forced their way inside. Lyra gasped, stumbling back, her blush glowing brighter with terror. Daniel raised the wrench, but he was outnumbered. One guard swung a staff, striking the tool from his hand. Another slammed him against the wall. Chains clicking around his wrists, Lyra cried out, reaching toward him. "No, please don't hurt him." Her cousin stepped through the doorway, her face twisted with satisfaction, her voice cold. "I told you, Lyra, you ruined yourself now. He will pay for it." Daniel struggled against the chains, anger flashing in his eyes. "She's innocent, it was an accident." But the cousin sneered. "Accident or not, the elders have spoken. The girl is spoiled, the human is guilty, and both will face judgment." Lyra's blush turned deeper, but now it was not only shame, it was fury. She pushed past two guards, her small hands shaking, her voice breaking. You betrayed me, cousin. You've always hated me because I was small, because I was weak, and now you've given them a reason to throw me away." Her cousin smirked cruelly. "Better you cast out than our family shamed forever. Your place is gone, and the human will be gone with you." The guards grabbed Lyra's arms, pulling her back as she struggled, her glowing face wet with tears. She cried out to Daniel, "Don't let them take you." Daniel's chest tightened as he was dragged toward the door, the weight of chains heavy, but his voice rang strong. "Lyra, don't give up. I'll find you, I promise." They were thrown into the street, the crowd gathering quickly, whispers rising like fire. "Look, the human who touched her. The spoiled girl. They'll face the elders at dawn." Lyra's face burned red as she kept her eyes down. The shame pressed on her like a crushing weight. Daniel was forced to his knees, guards holding him on both sides, blood on his lip from the blow. Yet even chained, he lifted his head high, his eyes meeting hers, his voice steady. "They can chain me, but they can't take your worth." Her heart twisted, her blush now mixed with something strange, something she didn't understand. The crowd jeered, throwing small stones and insults, calling Daniel foolish, calling Lyra ruined. The cousin walked proudly behind the guards, her voice loud. "The elders will judge them both, and by morning, the shame will be erased." They were dragged through the glowing city streets, past the market stalls where it had all begun. Daniel saw the same growth machine still sparking faintly, the cause of everything, and for a moment he wished he had never touched it. But when he looked at Lyra, trembling yet still lifting her head to glance at him, he knew he didn't regret protecting her, not for a moment. They were taken into a dark stone hall near the center of the city, the Hall of Elders, tall pillars glowing with ancient light. The guards chained Daniel to the floor, forcing him to kneel, while Lyra was pushed forward, her cousin standing close behind. The eldest alien, with skin like silver light, raised his staff, his voice deep. "This human has broken our ways, and this girl has been touched, claimed, and ruined. Judgment must fall." Lyra gasped, tears streaming down her glowing cheeks, her voice cracking. "No, please, he saved me. He protected me when you all laughed. He is not guilty." The elders murmured among themselves, but the silver-skinned leader silenced them with a wave. He looked down at Daniel, his voice hard. "At dawn, the human will be executed. The girl will be cast out so the shame is ended." The hall fell silent. the words echoing like thunder. Lyra cried out, her face burning with red fire. "No, you can't. You can't take him. He's the only one who ever saw me as more than nothing." Her cousin grabbed her arm harshly, hissing, "Silence, you'll only make it worse." But Lyra pulled free, trembling, her blush glowing brightly, her voice fierce for the first time. "I won't be silent, not anymore." The crowd gasped, shocked by her defiance. The guards stiffened, but Daniel's eyes lit with pride. He whispered through bloodied lips, "That's it, Lyra. Don't let them silence you." The elders frowned, clearly unsettled by her words, yet the silver-skinned leader spoke again. "The dawn will decide if the human dares to defend his claim. He will face our trial of strength." Daniel's head snapped up, his voice rough but unshaken. "Then I'll face it, whatever it is." Lyra's heart pounded, her face crimson. She whispered, "Daniel, you'll die." He looked at her, eyes steady, voice calm. "Then I'll die standing, not chained." Her blush deepened, tears streaming down her glowing cheeks, but this time her lips curved into the smallest, trembling smile. Because in that moment, she believed him. The guards dragged Daniel away to the prison cells, leaving. Lyra kneeling on the stone floor, her cousin smirking with victory, the crowd buzzing with excitement. But Lyra lifted her head, her cheeks red, her voice soft but strong. "If he must fight, then I'll stand with him no matter what comes." The hall echoed with shock, whispers racing through the crowd, and the night closed in heavy, with the promise of dawn bringing blood, battle, and a choice that would change everything. The dawn came slowly, spilling pale light across the alien city. The bells of the Elder Hall echoed through the streets, calling people to witness the trial. Crowds gathered outside the arena, their voices buzzing with excitement and cruelty, some eager to see a human punished, others whispering about the alien girl who dared to speak against her own kind. Inside the prison cell, Daniel sat with chains around his wrists, his body bruised but his spirit unbroken. He listened to the roar of voices outside, the sound of guards preparing for the trial of strength. His heart was steady, but his thoughts kept drifting to Lyra. The way she had stood in front of everyone, her face burning red but her voice fierce, refusing to stay silent. The cell door creaked open. A guard stepped in, his voice flat. "Human, it is time. Come face your end." Daniel stood slowly, his chains clinking, but his eyes never wavered. As they dragged him toward the arena, he whispered to himself, "If nothing else, I'll prove they were wrong about her." In the arena, the ground was made of sand and stone, the pillars glowing with strange alien runes. The elders sat on high seats, watching with sharp eyes, the silver-skinned leader holding his staff of judgment. The crowd fell into silence as Daniel was pushed forward, forced to his knees in the center, and then Lyra appeared, escorted by 2 guards, her small frame trembling but her glowing cheeks bright with defiance. Her cousin followed behind, smirking with cruel delight, whispering to the crowd about shame and punishment. But Lyra ignored her, her eyes locked only on Daniel. When the silver-skinned elder raised his staff, his voice thundered, "The trial begins. The human will prove if he is worthy to keep what he has touched. If he fails, he dies. The girl is cast out." A tall alien warrior stepped into the arena, his armor shining, his body towering over Daniel, his weapon a long staff crackling with light. The crowd cheered, certain the human would be crushed. Lyra gasped, her face crimson. She stepped forward. "No, please, he can't fight like this. You're sentencing him to death." The elder's voice was sharp. "Silence, girl, you have already spoken too much. If you wish to stand with him, then you share his fate." The guards tried to pull her back, but she twisted free, her glowing blush brighter than the rising sun. She shouted, "Then I will stand with him. I will not abandon him. Not when he never abandoned me." The crowd erupted in shock, some laughing, others jeering. But Daniel's chest tightened, pride swelling in him. He stood tall despite the chains, his voice strong. "She has more courage than all of you, and if this is what it takes, then I'll fight." The elder's eyes narrowed, and with a wave of his hand, the chains around Daniel fell away, clattering to the ground. The alien warrior raised his weapon, stepping forward, ready to strike. Daniel bent down, picking up a broken piece of stone from the ground. His only weapon. The warrior laughed. A deep rumble. "You'll face me with that." Daniel's voice was calm. "I'll face you with whatever I have because I'm not fighting for myself, I'm fighting for her." Lyra's blush deepened, her eyes shining with tears, her voice breaking. "Daniel." The battle began. The warrior swung his staff with crushing force. Daniel rolled aside, the sand exploding where the weapon struck. The crowd cheered, some chanting for blood, others laughing at the human's weakness. But Daniel moved quickly. Striking the warrior's leg with the stone, the alien staggered slightly, surprised. The fight raged on, each strike of the staff faster, heavier. Daniel dodging, his body aching with every movement. Once, the staff grazed his shoulder, burning pain flashing through him, but he gritted his teeth and kept going. Lyra cried out, "Don't give up," her voice trembling, her glowing blush shining like fire. Her words pushed him forward, strength rising in his chest. Daniel saw his chance. The warrior lifted the staff high for a finishing blow, leaving his chest unguarded. With all his strength, Daniel charged, slamming the stone into the warrior's chest, then shoving him back. The warrior stumbled, crashing into the sand, the crowd gasping in shock. The elder stood, his staff glowing, ready to declare the result. But before he could speak, Lyra ran forward, her blush blazing, her voice fierce. "You see, he is strong, but his strength is not just muscle, it is heart. He fought for me when no one else would. He stood for me when you all laughed. If that does not prove his worth, then your laws mean nothing." The arena fell into stunned silence. Her cousin's face twisted with rage, shouting, "She defies the elders, she's a disgrace." But Lyra ignored her, standing tall, her voice breaking with tears. "I am not ruined, I am not spoiled. I am Lyra, and I choose him." Daniel's chest heaved with breath, his body weak, but when he looked at her, his spirit burned stronger than ever. The elder lowered his staff slowly, his eyes narrow but thoughtful, the crowd whispering in confusion. Finally, his voice boomed across the arena. "The human has proven strength. The girl has chosen her claim. By our laws, their bond cannot be denied." The crowd erupted with mixed cries, some in outrage, others in awe. Lyra ran to Daniel's side, her cheeks red, her tears shining. She helped him stand, whispering softly, "You kept your promise." Daniel smiled weakly, his voice rough. "And I'll keep it again, as long as you need me." Her blush deepened until her whole face glowed. But this time she didn't look away. For the first time she felt proud of the color on her cheeks because it wasn't shame anymore. It was courage. The elder's final words echoed, "Let them be bound, by choice and by trial. Their bond stands before the people." Lyra held Daniel's arm tightly, her lips trembling, her heart racing, and in that moment, with the crowd still roaring around them, she whispered only to him, "With you I am no longer afraid of anything." The arena roared with noise, but for Daniel and Lyra the world had gone quiet, and the dawn had become the light of defiance. The arena floor was still trembling with the echoes of the crowd, half in outrage, half in awe. Daniel stood weak but unbroken, his bruised arms steady as Lyra clung to him, her cheeks glowing red like fire, her heart racing as if it would break. Free of her chest, the elders had spoken. Their bond was now recognized, and though the people whispered with disbelief, no one could deny what had been decided under the laws of their own kind. Lyra's cousin spat on the ground, her voice sharp and filled with fury. "This isn't right. He's a human. She's a disgrace. Their bond is a stain." But Daniel turned, his voice calm yet fierce. "No. The only stain is cruelty. She is worth more than your words, and I'll never let you make her believe otherwise again." The cousin's face twisted with hate, but she had no power now. The judgment had been made, and the guards stepped between her and the pair. Lyra's whole face burned crimson, tears clinging to her lashes as she looked at Daniel, her lips trembling. "No one has ever spoken for me like that." Daniel gave her a small, tired smile. "Get used to it, because I'm not stopping now." Her blush deepened so much that she covered her face with both hands, whispering shakily. "You'll make me melt if you keep saying things like that." The crowd slowly began to disperse, though many still stared with disgust or disbelief. But some, a small few, looked at Lyra with new eyes, no longer laughing but thoughtful, perhaps even respectful. For the first time in her life, she wasn't only seen as weak or spoiled. She was seen as someone who had chosen, who had defied, and who had stood in the open for all to see. As Daniel leaned on her for support, they were escorted back into the city streets, not as prisoners, but as recognized. Bondmates' whispers followed them, voices soft but sharp. The human and the blushing girl. But Lyra lifted her chin even though her face glowed bright red. She walked beside Daniel with small but steady steps. She whispered to him, her voice trembling but proud. "They can say what they want, but I'll never let go of you now." Daniel's chest warmed at her words, his eyes steady as he replied, "Good, because I don't plan on letting you go either." Lyra nearly tripped on the words, her blush surging like a flame. "Don't say it like that in front of everyone," he chuckled softly. "Then I'll say it louder if it makes them understand." Her whole body shivered, her glowing skin bright, and she buried her face against his arm, whispering, "You're impossible." Later, when they reached Daniel's workshop again, the silence of the room felt different than before. It wasn't fear anymore. It was relief. It was safety. It was the fragile warmth of something new growing between them. Daniel sat heavily on the bench, wincing at the bruises on his body. Lyra rushed to his side, her blush still strong as she touched his arm gently. "You're hurt. I should help you." He smiled at her worry. "I've had worse, but you being here makes it easier." Her hands trembled, and she looked away, her face glowing crimson. "Why do you always say things that make my heart go crazy?" Daniel leaned slightly closer, his voice low. "Because it's the truth." Lyra gasped softly, covering her face again, but this time there was no shame in her blush. It was something sweeter, something warmer. That night she stayed in the workshop with him, sitting near the small heater that flickered with faint light. She curled into the blanket he offered, her eyes drifting shut. But every time she opened them, she found him still, watching over her, still protecting her. And every time her face burned red, though she whispered softly, "I don't mind if you keep looking at me like that." When morning came, Lyra stood with Daniel outside the workshop, the alien city bathed in pale gold light. Her cousin was gone. Her family had turned their backs, but she did not feel lost anymore. She had found something different, something stronger, and though it made her blush until her cheeks ached, she wasn't afraid of it. Daniel looked out at the streets, then down at her, his voice steady. "It won't be easy, Lyra. They may never accept us, but I don't care. As long as you're with me." She swallowed hard, her face glowing redder than ever, whispering shakily, "Then I'll stay with you, even if I blush forever." The words made him laugh softly, and he reached out, brushing her cheek lightly. She squeaked, her blush exploding across her glowing skin, and she whispered so faintly he almost missed it, "Daniel, you'll kill me with this." But her trembling smile betrayed her heart. She wasn't afraid anymore, not of him, not of the world. The human who had once been a stranger in the marketplace had become the one who gave her courage, the one who shielded her when all others turned away. And though she blushed endlessly, she stood taller now, her glowing cheeks a mark not of shame but of something else, something new, something she had chosen. The story of the human and the blushing alien girl spread across the colony. Some mocked, some doubted, but none could deny it. That day, under the judgment of the elders, a fragile girl who had always been called weak was seen as strong, and a human proved that heart could matter more than law. And as Daniel and Lyra walked together into the bright morning light, her face burning red, her lips whispering, "With you I belong," he smiled, steady and unshaken, his voice calm but full of warmth. "And with you, I finally understand what home feels like." The crowd's whispers faded into nothing, because in that moment, only the two of them existed. The human who made her blush and the alien girl who gave him purpose, and their story was only beginning.